Welcome to today's spine-chilling episode, where we'll be diving into 5 true stalker horror stories that will make you rethink your next steps when walking alone, gaming, or even just sipping your morning coffee. These are real experiences shared by people just like you and me. Story 1. A few years ago, I was a 35 male and had a terrifying experience that still haunts me. After a late shift, I was walking home through the quieter side streets of my neighborhood around 10 p.m. At first, I didn't think much of it when I noticed a man walking about 20 feet behind me. But as I walked faster, so did he. As I slowed down, he slowed down. It wasn't just a coincidence, it was something much worse. I decided to take a detour and ended up stopping at a 24/7 convenience store to try to shake him. But as I was watching from inside, I saw him standing right outside, staring at me through the glass. I ran out, paid for my drink hastily, and bolted. But when I turned the corner to my street, I saw him again, standing at the far end of the block, watching me. I managed to make it back to my apartment safely, but I never stopped feeling the unease. The whole thing left me questioning whether it was all just paranoia or something far darker. Story 2. This story takes us into the world of online gaming. At 17, I was having a blast playing Overwatch late at night. During one particular match, I noticed a player I'd been dominating for a while. His username stood out. Later, he invited me to a party. Curious, I joined, only to be met by a grown man in his 30s, not a kid like I expected. What followed was terrifying. He cursed me out, insulted me, and even made threats about my family. But then something horrifying happened. After losing the match, his rage escalated to inhuman screeches, something that sounded like a man possessed. The next day, I found a message from him. He knew my full name, my address, and where I worked. He even showed up at my job, shouting my name through the crowd. I had no idea how he found me, but I called the cops. They arrested him, but I'm still haunted by the fact that he knew where I was and how far he'd go. Story 3. When I was 20, working at a busy coffee chain in San Antonio, I thought I was safe. But I started noticing a guy who frequented the shop, always hanging around without buying anything. At first, I thought nothing of it. But as the days passed, he became more and more persistent, watching me without speaking, never ordering, just staring. Then one day he followed me when I left on break. He tried to get my number, and when I turned him down, he just stared at me, surprised by my response. But that wasn't the end of it. He started showing up every single day, sometimes even multiple times a day. One day I went to the bathroom only to find the door handle rattling while I was inside. When I opened the door, he was standing right there. It was him, the same guy who'd been watching me for weeks. Things only got worse. He showed up on Valentine's Day, pressing his face against the window, staring at me with a crazed look in his eyes. I was terrified. I called the cops, and while they were supportive, my manager didn't take it seriously. But after I filed a report, he was banned from the store. Months later, I saw him again. We ducked into a store to hide from him, and luckily, I never saw him again. Story 4. Sometimes the scariest experiences happen when you least expect them. I was taking a walk one evening, enjoying the quiet of the neighborhood, when I realized a man was walking behind me. At first, I brushed it off, thinking it was just another person out for a stroll. But after a while, I noticed that he was walking at the same pace, staying behind me no matter how fast I went. When I made a turn, I thought I'd lost him. But when I glanced over my shoulder, there he was, still following me. I began to panic. I quickened my pace, trying to shake him off, but he matched my every step. I finally turned around and confronted him, asking if he needed help. He said nothing, but his eyes were cold and unblinking. I didn't wait to find out what his intentions were. I ran home, slamming the door behind me and locking it. I never saw him again, but I still wonder if he was just watching me from a distance. Story 5. It was just another night, but as I was leaving work, I felt something off. I looked around, and there he was, a man standing across the street just watching my house. I didn't think much of it at first, assuming he was just waiting for someone. But the longer I watched, the more I realized he was staring directly at my window. I rushed inside and locked the doors. The man never left. For hours, he stood there, unmoving. I called the police, but by the time they arrived, he was gone. They told me they couldn't do much unless he came back or did something more suspicious. He never returned, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time I step outside, I wonder if he's lurking nearby. These are just a few of the many stories where someone experienced the unnerving, terrifying reality of being stalked. Whether it's a stranger following you, a crazed gamer, or a creepy regular at your job, it's always a reminder to trust your instincts. If you've ever had a similar experience, or if you have your own true stalker story, share it in the comments below. And remember, if something feels off, listen to that gut feeling. Stay safe out there. Thanks for watching, and until next time, let's hope we never meet these stalkers again.